Our next featured guest has won many awards for her campaigns, including Adweek Media Plan of the Year. In 2016, she was named one of Ad Age's media mavens. Tamara Alesi joined MediaCom in 2015 and has assumed leadership roles with both Revlon and Subway at the agency. Here to share her perspectives on digital audio campaigns with Priscilla Valls of Pandora is Managing Partner, Integrated Strategic Planning at MediaCom, Tamara Alesi.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. Big stage for the two of us. All these seats, we can spread out. So thank you so much for joining me today, Tam. For those in the room that haven't worked with you before and maybe don't know so much about you, give us the cocktail version of what you do at MediaCom. What does a managing partner of integrated strategy and planning do?
Well, I spend other people's money for a living. I have a great job. No, in all seriousness, I think that my charge and really what Sasha brought me on to do was to help our clients reinvent themselves every day. I think from what I've read about this platform today and what you're all talking about is the changing landscape we're in. And so my clients, whether it be ones that I'm directly involved with, Subway, Revlon, Whole Foods, et cetera, as well as lots of other clients in our agency, ABI, et cetera, the landscape changes every day. So it's my job to help them reinvent themselves to stay ahead of it.
Amazing. And so can you talk a little bit more about the evolution of your career, how you've gotten to where you are today, and as a change agent, kind of some of your experiences as you've thought about the digital evolution and digital audio specifically?
Well, quite the compliment, thank you. I have young talent often. I sit down with them and I actually try to still, which is hard because I have about 70 people that I'm accountable for directly on my businesses, actually give everybody their review or partake in that. I think it's important for growth. When I've had people who work on my team say to me, like, how have you gotten where you've gotten? I would actually say part of it's luck, but the biggest part is ambition and hard work. And ultimately loving what I do. I actually, for the most part, love what I do every single day. And I try to bring that passion and that conviction to work, which I think is why I have great relationships with the clients the way that I do, and the way that my teams do, because I try to, push that to them. But I've been, where I say there was luck, I started in the traditional side of the business, Nestle, CPG, great first account. And then I moved into the movie business. That was where I first started doing some digital. And then I moved to New York and moved over to Digital Edge at the time, which is now part of MEC, and started in digital. And then I moved into an integrated role. And so my experience has led me to, I think, always be challenging myself with my clients' brands as our media landscape has evolved and continued to get more crazy.
Mm. And talking about challenging brands, you mentioned Revlon. And so in 2016, as Jennifer mentioned, Ad Age named you a media maven alongside Gail Tifford and Megyn Kelly. What were you honored for in that award?
That's a really hard question to ask or answer. I mentioned Scott Hagedorn too, who was actually somebody who hired me to run Apple. I think that it's that conviction that pushes me to have a really great and honest relationship with my clients and help solve business problems every day. I think sometimes we lose sight in what we're doing because there is so much change and there is so much noise out there that at the end of the day, I do enjoy spending their money, but we are there to help sell product. And so I think what hopefully got me noticed was that I've helped these clients to sell product. I've helped them to solve problems. I've helped them to connect with their consumers. And I've challenged them to be brave and take big risks where maybe other competitive brands weren't, so that as challenger brands, they could ultimately stand out.
And so as a challenger yourself, as a change agent and somebody who talks to challenging brands to think differently about not only how to reach consumers, but how to capture their attention, how to engage them, a similar change has kind of happened over the course of the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years with digital audio. How has your perspective changed around audio as a strategy and tactic to transform your client's business? Or has it changed?
Yeah. That's a great question, because clients ask me all the time, like, what is the rationale behind the strategies that we're recommending? The landscape, as I see it, is ultimately it's not, traditional or digital. It's ultimately connection points. And I really believe and that's ultimately the way we talk about it at MediaCom, about how we connect with our consumers, how we move them to not just purchase our product, but frankly, evoke a reason to, and evoke a reason to share. We always, when we're talking about our strategies, I say, why do you care? Why do you share? And if you can answer that question with how you're going to market, then you're going to deliver a great result. When it comes to digital audio versus traditional audio, I think that both can play a role, especially depending on who your audience is. I have, full disclosure, I've worked with Pandora now in different roles for I think 5 or 6, 7 years. And when my clients come to me and say, well, we've been doing, traffic radio, we've been doing traditional radio for so long, but we know that digital audio continues to grow, what's the value? What I challenge them to do is think about, you have to adapt in this brave new world and think about what's the purpose of being there. So does traditional radio have a role? Sometimes it does. When it comes to accountability, I love what we're able to do in terms of some of the work that we're doing with Subway, for example, is, we're running ads in audio, but I'm actually able to then track consumers that heard my spot and walked and dwelled in a Subway for 3 to 5 minutes. And I think that's an amazing evolution, because I do think that audio has a specific role in a consumer's life, because you're evoking a feeling. People are listening to music, or they're listening to something that matters to them. And if you're relevant and you give them an ad and a reason to be, then it's a good place to be.
So is it fair to say that you think of audio agnostically?
Absolutely.
It's not digital, it's not broadcast. It depends on the client's strategy, what you're trying to accomplish, and where you need to capture that consumer's attention.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the challenge that the traditional radio market does have is that it's harder to be accountable for those dollars from an ROI perspective. I can run a campaign and tag it in a certain way and actually monitor, like I said, traffic going into a door front, or more of an immediate ROI, which I think is harder to do. And as we're challenged with rating declines, whether it be in traditional TV or traditional radio, we have to challenge ourselves to make sure we're spending our dollars the best ways that we can.
And I love the idea of measurement. I think as marketers and as publishers, we are continuously held to that metric of being able to prove value, whether that's increased awareness, purchase intent, and or driving in-store foot traffic. Are there specific case studies, case stories that you have around being able to qualify driving in-store, and or is that something that is also in its evolution?
No, there's a lot of partners out there that allow you to do that, and they all have their various benefits. I know Placed has a system. I know that XAD has a system. As Priscilla is aware, I'm a big fan of Pinpoint, which is Foursquare's technology. And there's been a lot of case studies on the work they've done in terms of helping clients to literally track whether or not they're going to hit their quarterly numbers or not from a financial perspective. What we've rolled out with them has allowed us to change our clients' business in a marketplace that is forever more competitive, because their business is in QSR, and QSR is competitive and healthy is very important. So as you're out there and you're thinking about, well, how do I drive people into my door front, for that particular client, it's about immediacy, it's about relevancy, it's about in the moment. And I don't know how many people know this, but for QSR in particular, people make their decision within 30 to 90 minutes, I think is kind of the latest stat that Google's put out there. That's actually pretty accurate. So if I can message to them with a relevant message and say to them, hey, like, oh, you just finished your workout, come have a healthy dinner. Or you just finished your afternoon, come in for a cookie, whatever it might be. There's an opportunity to convert that consumer in a relevant way right into a door. And the case study that we happen to have with Subway, which has been a really phenomenal one, is that we are driving a significant amount of consumers into the door front with different triggers. I don't have my purse, but normally I would have my mobile device in my hand. And I think that at the core of whether you're doing video or audio or traditional digital search, social, whatever it might be, that mobile device is really a powerful screen to get that message across, which enables that in-store traffic delivery.
So you talked a lot about Subway, and I think that's intuitive and that makes a lot of sense. You also oversee Revlon as a brand, and this is an area that we've tried to, at different points with different levels of success within the beauty category in general, try to transform the way they think about audio. What do you think what are the roadblocks for some marketers? What are the challenges for actually thinking for them when they think about their visual identity so strongly, challenging them to think about their sonic identity and their audio identity?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I mean, I myself have been challenged when the clients are saying, what media should we be using for different trigger points, et cetera. Could I serve up an audio reminder ad to somebody who I want to drive into, in Revlon's case, Duane Reade or a Rite Aid, when they might be in the moment of purchase for beauty? Absolutely. But there are so many visual cues when it comes to beauty. Women are inspired by looks. And that's why beauty advertisers for years and years have traditionally leaned on the print media or TV media, because ultimately it's very visual. And if they can see how beautiful they'll look, they'll be inspired. Now, I think that Google has completely turned that category upside down in terms of opportunity to pull people into the category and pull people into a product, because YouTube is a phenomenal way to do how-tos and get the message out there. So when it comes to beauty as a category, I think that audio is ultimately not necessarily prioritized because it's not visual. Now, the argument, if I was in your shoes, I would say as well, but yes, there's also video in that experience. Or if you're on the computer, it could be a display unit or a full page makeover, takeover, whatever it might be. But
can I make the argument that as digital becomes pervasive and things are connected, the Internet of Things, and there are more places for audio and voice activation, voice being almost the new touch these days, right? That the next challenge for maybe the category of beauty is how to use audio in a way that can reach that consumer in the shower when they're actually washing their hair, which no other digital medium can do.
I think,
right?
An old client of mine, L'Oreal, was a client of mine for 2 years, and when I was there, the CEO at the time, Mark Speicher, launched Makeup Genius, and it was a phenomenal app that was very visual. I do think that over time, audio cues will play a role there because consumers have just changed their behavior. We know that consumers walk into store now and they have been cued by something, but that at the same time they will check their phone and they will look something up to see, oh my goodness, can I purchase it somewhere for $1 less? Like consumers, especially young consumers, Gen Z, millennials, young millennials in particular, are very price conscious. So they're using their mobile device and advertising as a way to just continue to be smarter. So, if you were saying to me today, like, how do I prioritize media and beauty? I do prioritize visual because if I can show you how beautiful you look, wouldn't you want the product? But I do think that audio could play a role. It just depends on your client strategy.
Okay. So as you look to the future, digital audio specifically, and or technology in general, what inspires you? What's innovative? What are you looking towards to help transform your clients?
So talking about
strategies?
audio, I mentioned this in my interview regarding with Ad Age, is bots are going to continue to really challenge all of us and think differently about how we go to market. I saw a really amazing example, and this is not a brand that I work on, that Toys R Us did, where they had their giraffe. I think his name's Jeffrey. I'm like, I'm a mother. I should know this, right? And Jeffrey spoke to you as a bot. And if you were doing a search, like, how amazing is that? Now, at the core of that is personalization. So I think that while it might not seem like, the next screen that talks to you, or the refrigerator that orders your groceries in advance of you knowing that you need them, personalization is ultimately the ultimate innovation in my mind. And that's because each of you in this audience would probably rather have an ad that's personal to you and relevant to you versus seeing a lot of things that don't matter. I don't know you, but if you were to be served a Revlon ad, you'd be like, why am I getting this ad? So I think it's a way for us to not just be smarter as marketers, it's a way for us to continue to push boundaries and be more relevant, and ultimately really customize mass media with a one-to-one voice, which I think is extremely important.
So I've shot a lot of questions out at you. Are there any final parting thoughts you want to leave us with? Anything that's top of mind lately?
I always tell people to be brave, be curious. If I think about just what we've talked about today, and if I think about how I motivate my own teams, and as a leader at MediaCom, try to help our clients to continually reinvent themselves, you need to be brave. You need to not be comfortable with what you've historically done, because the media marketplace itself just continues to adapt, which is why we talk about it as connection points. I saw that earlier there was a conversation about podcasts, and podcasts, funny enough, I remember that they first came into our world, I don't know, I want to say in like 1998 or 1999, when we started talking about them as a digital opportunity, when I worked on an entertainment client. And podcasts have become extremely relevant, and it's because consumers are time-starved. So if they can interact with you, whether it's audio on your way to work or in your route to go somewhere else, or it's video or whatever it might be, whatever is the most relevant way, be brave to adapt to that. I think that some publishers have been challenged with this new landscape, because how many of us saw the news 2 weeks ago when Condé Nast had they eliminated, I think, 4 major publishers that have been within that house for a very long time, and that is a response to the changing landscape. Now, I can also say, as somebody who works with Condé Nast, that I think they're doing an amazing job adapting, but we've even had conversations with them and said, challenge yourself to bring audio into your mix, because it is a great way to have a conversation with consumers. So if I was to leave everybody with anything, I'd say be brave, think differently, no pun intended, and challenge yourself and your agencies to continue to innovate, because innovation is really at the core of how we learn and how we get better and how we become more precise to the consumers who want to hear from us. So that's it.
Great. Well, thank you for your time. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.